Hey, race fans, welcome into another episode of Backseat Drivers. I'm Alex Weaver, joined by Jonathan Merriman and Chase Wilhelm. Guys, we saw two championship favorites get both of the checkered flags at Pocono. No surprise that the 4 of Kevin Harvick and the 11 of Denny Hamlin dominate.
It's only a matter of time before Kevin finally got that win at Pocono. He's got to win the Roval. He's got to win Kentucky. Then he checks all the boxes. The only guy that's even close to doing that's Kyle Busch, who's got to win the Roval to do that. So those two guys put on a show this weekend. I thought Denny was probably a little bit better in the first race. Kevin was probably a little bit better in the second race, and it just so happened to be they won the opposite of those because of the crazy pit strategy that we saw. But to your point, I don't know if anybody's keeping these two guys out of the Final Four for the championship. They just have been running so well. Denny, I think, is really dangerous. He's playing really, really loose. So he would be my pick to win the title. But Kevin Harvick is definitely a close second.
What stuck out to me was the fact that Kevin Harvick said after the race on Sunday that he had a better car on Sunday than he did on Saturday and actually won the race Saturday. So the fact that number 4 team can win with a car that in their eyes is not as fast, that just goes to show you how strong that they are and how they've been. But both Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick, they're the class of the field. They've won 6 of the 11 races that we've had since coming back from the COVID-19 stoppage. So these two are definitely the championship favorites as of right now.
So out of those two, the 4 and the 11, we have to think that those two teams are the best in the garage right now. Not just the driver, but the whole entire team seems to be clicking on a different level. The relationship between crew chief and driver is outstanding with those two pairings. Then you have a team who's bringing fast cars to the racetrack every single week. So out of those two, who's your championship favorite? You can only have one, guys.
Well, we were talking before the show. And, me and Chase obviously disagree on this. But one thing we did agree on, to your point, Alex, the crew chiefs, Childers and Gabehart, they're both late model drivers. They've been behind the wheel. Their communication with their driver is top notch. I think if you switch those two guys, you're still going to win races with both teams, but it's not going to be to the level that it is now. Having said all that, I think Denny has more to prove. He says it all the time that he's peaking at his age statistically. The numbers say that, 39, 40 years old is where you start to peak, and he's right around that bubble. And I think it is his championship to lose against Kevin Harvick. Even though Kevin is the king of Phoenix, I think it's Denny Hamlin's year to lose the championship.
Well, I am going to pick Kevin Harvick, but I will say this. Kevin really hasn't been the king. I mean, Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, they both won there since as well. But I will say this. I think that Chris Gabehart has had such a positive effect on Denny Hamlin since the fact that Hamlin lost Mike Wheeler and then Gabehart came along. There's something with Gabehart and Hamlin where Gabehart can get inside of Hamlin's head and calm him down, especially while he's out there in the race car. And that's why they're clicking off race wins. But I will say Kevin Harvick is definitely my championship favorite between those two and the championship favorite. You can't bet against the Harvick-Childers combination. I mean, they're just so good off the truck every single weekend with no practice. You can't beat that.
Well, a guy that is probably always the championship favorite, and he's the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, Kyle Busch, almost had a win at Pocono. This would have been a completely different conversation if the 18 would have made it to victory lane, but he's the only championship 4 contender of the last 2 seasons to not have a win in 2020. Merriman, I know you said Kentucky is the turning point where you need to start worrying. Kentucky's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but, I mean, they showed speed. He thinks he needs practice. I think Kyle is along the lines of Iverson. I don't think he needs to practice. I think all they need to do is not, have a lap car cut down and have Blaney dive into the corner like he did, and he's got to win at Pocono. And we're not having this conversation, but we've had this conversation every week since we've been back since Darlington. What's going on? It started with him and the movie put on Chase there at Darlington, and it's just kind of piled on ever since. But one win fixes this for Kyle. I think he knows that. He's frustrated because he knows what's under him. He knows that the same equipment has won 4 times this year, and he's got a goose egg.
I will say that if Kyle Busch didn't have the speed, especially in the second race at Pocono before he wrecked, I would say, okay, let's start to maybe worry a little bit. I think the 18 car was poised to if not win, at least finish in the top 3, especially with the strategy that they were playing. They were right there with Blaney, and they both had fast cars. So no panic button just yet, but I'm kind of getting close to pushing it.
So as of right now, if I had to have you both pick your championship 4, and we're racing at Phoenix, let's say next weekend, is Kyle Busch in it or is he out?
I mean, if you're gonna make me do it right now, I'd say no, he's not in it. But he's got another half a season to get in that form. He's not gonna miss the playoffs points wise. It's not gonna happen. They've got time. I don't know why everybody's panicking. I mean, the dude did it with two broken legs. Come on, it's Kyle Busch.
I'm not pushing. I'm not getting ready to push the panic button because of what they're doing. I'm doing it because of what everybody else is doing. Because I don't see Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin especially letting off the throttle at all. I mean, they are the 2 strongest cars. They've won so many races this year. So if the 18 team doesn't just really launch it and step it up, then they are going to be in trouble. And right now, that's why Kyle Busch is not in my championship 4. Aside from them, even throw a Martin Truex Jr. in there, and even all the Penske boys. But especially like the Chase Elliott's and the Ryan Blaney's, they could make the championship 4 for the first time this year because they've been so strong every single weekend. And there's 2 of your 4 right there. And then if Harvick and Hamlin keep their momentum going, they'll be in there too, and that leaves no room for Busch.
Chase's 4 just turned to 10 real quick. I don't know who's going to make it to Phoenix now. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, Kyle Busch isn't going to miss it, so don't worry. Sit back, eat your M&Ms. You'll be fine.
All right, June 29th, remember the state, because we're going back to say who was right or who was wrong. All right, so we are heading up north instead of down south in Florida. We're used to be in Daytona for July 4th weekend, but now we're heading up to Roger Penske's home of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What can we expect from Indy? Because it's been some of the best races we've seen over the last couple of seasons, so we have to think that the normal Penske crowd is going to show up because when your boss owns the place, you better. And we have to think that Joe Gibbs, who's so dominant at Indy, is going to show up as well.
Weaver, I think we're in for a bit of a wild card simply because, we haven't raced this time of year in a while. We haven't raced this car this time of year in a while. The past 3-4 races in Indianapolis have just been kind of wild races. You don't really know what to expect. I think you can expect people who were fast at Pocono to be fast at Indianapolis. So, take that top 10, top 15, shuffle them up any way you want to run that. I'm not going to be surprised. I will say, let's not forget this is an opportunity for Jimmy Johnson. He's got more wins than any active driver at this racetrack. Hendrick has really got to finish out races, and it would be a different story about them if they could just close these things out. They close out, they could come away here with a win. Penske can come out here with a win, but it's going to have to go through the 11. I think it's going to go through the 18, and I think it's going to go through the 4. That's going to be your 3 to keep an eye on. And I don't know. I don't really see a win coming from outside of those 3 guys.
And I agree with you there. I think those are going to be the 3 favorites at least. But I think this is going to be a really, really unpredictable race. We could maybe see more strategy. But I'm looking at guys that haven't won and then even haven't won their Cup career. Let's say you mentioned Hendrick and being able to close out races. One driver that sticks out to me is William Byron. They've started races. It has not been good for that 24 team, and they've had to claw their way up. So I can see maybe William Byron getting his first victory if they can get off the truck and be fast. He's won it in the Xfinity Series before, so he's used to that victory lane there. Also, two others that come to mind are Eric Almirola, because he was really fast at Pocono, and then also Matt DiBenedetto. I mean, that 21 car, they're affiliated with Penske. That car's been fast. They were fast at Pocono. So I could see a surprise winner like him go out and win.
All right, well, a lot of racing. We've been spoiled here as of late because we've gotten a ton of racing over the last couple of weeks, and now we get even more. It's IndyCar is up in Indianapolis as well, but we also get the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday on the road course, and then the NASCAR Cup Series is taken to the track on Sunday. It's also somebody's birthday on July 4th. I wonder who that could be with all the American flags back behind him.
Probably the greatest American me. 32 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, happy birthday. Happy July 4th, everybody. Enjoy the weekend. And make sure you tune in to the NASCAR Cup Series in Indianapolis on Sunday, 4 p.m. on NBC. We'll see you guys right back here on another episode of Backseat Drivers.